One of them is cameras in the courtroom, and you actually have the latest on that. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about what's going on as far as them allowing cameras in the courtroom.
Sure. Okay. So that's been a big controversy because both sides, both attorneys from both sides don't want to allow cameras in the courtroom, particularly on Kohberger's side. They don't feel that he could get a fair trial with that kind of publicity. So the judge needs to rule on that. And he's reserved his ruling, so he hasn't ruled yet. But one of the things that he's said, and he's been public about this. It's Judge John Judge is his name, actually. And he's stated that he feels the media is really pushing the envelope with the cameras. And he's made a lot of remarks on camera, which they feel could weigh heavily with his final decision. But I'm gonna read you a quote from him. He said, quote, "We don't want to have a trial in the media or in public. We want to have it be in the courtroom." And then he actually pointed over to the cameras on the side of the room and went on to say, quote, "One of the things that's going to be really important, that is very important, is that people with the cameras and the media need to follow the rules. And we've had some issues where people were pushing the envelope, particularly focusing on the tables where counsel sit. You are not to turn your cameras toward the top of those tables. And if you do that, you're probably going to have to leave the courtroom." He went on to say, also, one of the things that happened in the Daybell case is that the cameras just continued to focus on the defendant. Don't do that. That's what brought the cameras to have to leave the courtroom in that case. And what I would prefer, if you want to continue to have cameras in the courtroom, is to back off and make sure that we just have the totality of what is happening in the court and not just focus, for example, on Mr. Kohberger's face. The conduct during Daybell's trial was not appropriate. So I think from his quotes and the remarks he's made, my opinion would be that he's leaning towards allowing cameras in the courtroom with a lot of parameters. So not to focus on one particular person, the defendant in this case, and not to focus on maybe some sensitive materials that are on the table, right? Like their case, things that they may not want the public or the other side to see. So I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, I am for cameras in the courtroom simply
Yeah,
because I've heard the families say that that's what they want. And that's the only thing I'm basing it on, really. But I do think that right now there's the sealed gag order on the case where nobody legally involved in it can talk about it. And I think that's appropriate. But once that trial is public, all of that evidence should be also public. And I don't think that there's a lack of transparency necessarily having cameras in the courtroom, but it doesn't seem like if we have that tool that we wouldn't use it. And I think the only argument that holds water to me is if there is a mistrial or something like that, it could taint a jury pool to have the cameras in there. But I can't find any other good argument why I could see why somebody working on the case wouldn't want the cameras in there
sure.
to scrutinize them, but I can't see any good reason for the public for cameras not to be there.
And there really shouldn't be, because those type of trials and courtroom, that's public. So you could walk in off the street and sit in on that trial. And now in the day and age of, there's so much with the media and live streaming and different things. I think it's appropriate for the cameras to be in the courtroom, but I do agree that they should have some parameters. I do agree with that. Because I think it's fair that we all get to see this and see it unravel and see the evidence as it's presented in court. I think to your point, the victims' families want that, and that should be their right. So I think the judge is going to really consider the victims' families and what they want. And I think he's going to end up allowing cameras, like I said, with certain parameters. I think that's what we'll see.
One of the other things that I just thought of when you were talking is we still, as the public, aside from wanting justice for the people who were slain, we also want to make sure that we're safe. We want to make
Right.
sure that the evidence is right, that logically we feel that the right person has been charged with these allegations. So I think that that's another argument why the public, if it has a tool like that, it's hard to say no to it. So.
Right. Yep.